Hello, everyone. I know we have a few other folks that are joining, and then we'll kick this off right at the top of the hour. Excited for all of you guys being here. We're having conversations around, is it Mai Tai? No, I was going to say Mai Tais, but that's a cocktail here, Chris.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai. See, that's where my mind is prior. I love it.
Chris was
Okay,
about
we
to
get
break a bat with his shin right before we started.
our conversations get very interesting of where it progresses and where it goes.
Official
Okay.
sport of Thailand.
Yeah, true. I still need to go to Thailand. It is on my list. I know people are joining, but we're going to get kicked off because we have a very kind of lots of action-packed information. So you guys, welcome everyone. This is webinar 2 of our 9-part series, which the whole series is really focused on technology shaping the future of staffing. For those of you that do not know me, I'm Erin McKenzie from Newbury Partners, and I am your host as we explore how leading industry experts are truly helping staffing firms solve their biggest challenges, from sourcing and engagement to execution and truly scalability. But before we really dive in here, I wanted to just kind of truly take a moment to recognize all of the incredible sponsors and technology partners that are making this series happen. We have a lot of folks here, and each week we're going to be joined by different partners from across the staffing ecosystem. And today's session is truly turning strategy into action and sustaining, see, I can't talk this morning, sustaining that momentum over time. But I am excited to introduce you guys because I've got two truly dynamic leaders. I've got Eric Frank. Eric is a coach with Petra and also Newbury's own strategic coach. He is guiding our leadership team through goal setting, execution rhythms, and accountability frameworks to truly keep us on track. For those of you that do not know Eric, Eric is a former national powerlifting champion and award-winning entrepreneur, and he brings that same discipline and passion to the boardroom, helping businesses truly build strong habits that fuel their long-term success, as we can even state for ourselves. So Eric, thank you for being here.
Thank you
And
for
I'm
having
also
me.
so super excited. And super also wanted to introduce you guys to Chris Scowden. Chris is our CEO, our leader at the helm here of Newbury Partners, and Chris brings over 25 years of experience in staffing and consulting. He's led digital transformation efforts at TrueBlue, AMN, and is truly focused on helping firms adapt, innovate, and excel. So under Chris's leadership, Newbury is enabling growth and operational efficiency for staffing firms truly across the industry. And together, what we're going to do is unpack why execution often fails and often breaks down, and what firms can do to turn plans into progress truly quarter after quarter. So here's our agenda for kind of the talk tracks. You guys, this is going to be a lot of information. So if you do have questions, please put them into the chat. If we do not get to them, I promise to send you a follow-up email that will go to everyone, and I'll have all those questions answered. And reach out to us after as well if you need anything at all. So let's kind of jump in to why execution fails. And let's kind of start with like at the beginning, because great execution truly starts with a solid plan. For those of you that aren't really kind of on the leadership kind of standpoint or have not done planning sessions, a lot of planning sessions are done with like leadership teams or department leaders when they step away from kind of that day-to-day to reflect on what's working, define what's the upcoming quarterly or annual goals, and truly align on priorities. So this is something that we do at Newbury, and we kind of really make sure that we spend time to create clarity. We identify what matters to us within the business, in the business and out of the business, and really set that direction for the months ahead. But as many of you probably know, it's not what happens in those planning sessions. It's really what happens after those planning sessions that can truly break your success and that can truly define your success and where you're going. So Eric, I'm going to start with you here. You've led dozens of these sessions, I know, across multiple different industries across the country, including here at Newbury. And we have some slides ready to go, so I appreciate you kind of sending that over. But why is this step, that execution, so critical? And where do you often see the follow through start to slip?
Sure. So it really all starts with well-defined goals. And so we generally see companies fail because of poorly defined goals, right? They're not starting with the end in mind of really where they want to finish. It's very vague and fuzzy. So this is an example of a poorly written goal that you would see at a lot of companies, right? So a 3-year target of we want to improve technology and automation to be the most technologically advanced staffing business, right? That is a typical type of goal that you might hear. Flowery language, we're number one. But what does it really mean? Okay, it's not a poorly written goal. And I want to show you a little example. Okay. So this is a trust fall. She's ready to catch her behind. We say fall, and she does, but she goes the wrong way. So in the trust fall, we were not very specific that you needed to fall backwards. So what a lot of companies do is they set these goals, but they're not specific. They lack specificity. So if we were in a planning session and somebody said our 3-year target is to improve technology and automation to be the most technologically advanced staffing business in the world, I would say, how are you going to measure that, right? How are you going to know that you've done this? And they would say a few things, and I'd ask them some more questions, and they'd say a few things, and I'd say, but how do we know? Slide. And we'd say, well, we would know because our average candidate placement per recruiter has increased from 5 to 25 placements per month through our automated tools and technology. And so that number is what tells me that we are the most technologically advanced staffing business, and we've improved our technology because we've actually hit a number that we needed to hit. So a poorly written goal compared to a really well-written goal that should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound.
I think this probably is very relatable to what we've done, and we definitely had some trust fall, I think, exercises very early on. So Chris, I mean, you've led large scale teams. You're now growing leading us here in consultancy, and you've worked here with Eric and the Petra team. And I know we have had to really work on our SMART priorities and make sure that they were truly kind of meeting specific, measurable, attainable across the board. But do you have some examples of how we've improved as a leadership team? Because I definitely know we were not perfect at the beginning. And kind of what has been your experience of what's derailed some of this execution, and even when the strategy has been solid?
Yeah, as we kind of looked at where the business was when we started with Petra over 4 years ago, it was traditional small business, not super sophisticated, and what we realized we needed to be great at execution and delivery, and be able to take on any project and win over the customer, really be nailed down. So the first year was all around how do we improve our delivery capabilities? How do we shore up our project governance? How do we train all of our people so there's consistency in the delivery there? And how do we really instill core values that drive our business? So that we have each other's back, and we really create a Newberry way of delivering. So that was probably the first 12 to 18 months. And within that, there were several different priorities that came out of it around what is our governance process? What is our project management methodology? What tools are we using? What's our training methodology? So all of that overarching goal was to have excellent project delivery. There was quarterly priorities that rolled into that to really build out that capability, and then we can talk about other kind of the next turn of the crank of how the business has continued to evolve over the last two to 3 years. So
No, that's super accurate. And I know that we definitely, from project governance, I mean, I think we refined a lot of different times. And I'm going to bring up one of our big tasks internal. I mean, Acello was a big internal task. I think we had it as a priority oh my gosh, like probably
Years.
2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's 6 different quarters. So I mean, we definitely had a lot of refinement to really make sure that we truly had those smart kind of priorities in place, which was big. And I am doing it. Acello is out there. So okay, this is like super helpful. So when we kind of, if we're to talk about goal setting a little bit better, as we've talked about smart priorities, there is a lot of execution challenges that we've seen that can start with poorly defined priorities. And we have learned these can lead to truly failure from the very beginning. So, Eric, when we think about setting better goals, better priorities, can you walk us through that framework of what does this look like to set those clear, actionable goals? We obviously talked about SMART. And what are like, how do we take it from there? Is there tasks? Like, what actually drive the results?
Sure. So, one of my favorite expressions is, how do you eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time. And there's really two types of planning that companies do. There's strategic planning and there's executional planning, right? Strategic planning, that's what so many executive teams love to do, right? Get in a room and be strategist and whiteboard and have all these great ideas. And a lot of times you'll walk out of one of those strategic planning sessions feeling great. We had a great session and nothing actually gets executed because you don't put the plan together to execute all the way. And so what we're going to show you here is how we turn that 3-year target, that big target. So our average candidate placement recruiter has increased 5 to 25 per month through automated tools and technology. Okay, so that's our 2028 goal. So we want to think about, all right, if this needs to be true by 2028, okay, what needs to be true by the end of this year? Okay, so then we'd say, all right, by the end of this year, we need 1 year. Our 1-year initiative is our integrated recruiter dashboard and applicant tracking system is automated to reduce manual tasks by 50%. So you'll see very specific, very measurable. 1 year applicant tracking system is automated to reduce manual tasks by 50%. If it reduced manual tasks by 40%, that's improvement, but we didn't hit our goal. So we either at the end of 1 year, we did it or we didn't do it. Then we're going to set a quarterly priority. So if this needs to be true by 12/31, what needs to be true by 3/31? And we do quarterly planning. So we get hyper focused on what the quarterly plan is going to be. So we've got our quarterly priority, okay? And then that breaks down into 13 weekly milestones. So at the end of every week, what I'm going to do at the end of in the planning day is I'm going to say what needs to be true by the end of every week in order for us to achieve this by the end of the quarter. So I create these 13 milestones, okay? And then I break it down in that first week of what are the things that need to get done. And all I have to do now is achieve one thing per day on the business every day for the next 3 years, and I'm going to achieve this massive goal. But if I just looked at this massive goal and thought, how am I going to achieve it in 3 years? I'm probably going to get lost. So this is a visual display of eating the elephant one bite at a time.
This is super helpful. I have one question, which is I said I would never throw any curveballs in here, but I am. But what happens if someone is on vacation and so they don't have 13 weeks?
Great question. So one of the first things we do in a planning day is we say how much time is in the quarter. 13 weeks, it's 60 working days, 504 hours. The next thing we do is, okay, everybody pull out your calendar. Are you going out of town? Are you taking any time off? Let's work with what you actually have to do. So whatever time you have is the time we're going to plan for. Also, if something should take 13 weeks, let's plan to get it done in 10 or 11 because stuff always comes up. And just this is kind of that visual of eating the elephant one bite at a time. 3-year target, 1-year initiative, quarterly priority, weekly milestone, daily top task.
This is a super great visual, I think, for many people, whether from a leadership perspective or in your day-to-day and even your personal goals. This is something that we can all work on. So, Chris, I know one thing we've really done here at Newbery is we've done a lot of evolvement on our goal setting process across both from the leadership team and bringing it down to our managing consultants. But what does this journey look like for you And what's made the biggest difference for you leading Newberry here as you've been going through these planning?
Yeah, a couple things. So when we're in the planning session, one of the key principles is conflict is okay. It's actually encouraged. So when an individual puts up a goal, it's the job of the team to challenge that goal and challenge that priority and ensure that it is ironclad. So there's a lot of back and forth, and if we're not doing enough of it, Eric or any of our other coaches are leaning in to really pressure test those priorities, and are they the right ones, and do we have the right tasks and milestones built in order to achieve that. And then operationally, we've taken this and created a communication rhythm, basically, where every day the leadership team is in daily huddles. They're reviewing what happened that day, how did they do against their top task. Weekly, we have a management huddle, and we are reviewing our priorities and the progress we're making each week. Bi-weekly, there's one-on-ones with every team member in the organization. So as these tasks and priorities are sitting right, the ownership is at the leadership level, the execution is getting cascaded down into the organization. So we're bringing everybody along in the journey to kind of execute on this. Every quarter, we're doing town halls. So the full team knows how the business is performing, financially, as well as CSAT, as well as how we're executing against our quarterly priorities and our annual initiatives. So that communication is very clear throughout the whole organization, and it makes sure that we're all rowing in the same direction.
I think that's super important. And that's kind of like, I'm going to go to one more question here because I think this is really where we think about like cross functionality across different, like cross functionality goals and priorities across teams. So, Chris, really quick question for you. What do you think that anyone that's kind of tuning in, whether they're from a leadership perspective, sales, operations, but really kind of all these leaders, what should they be thinking about when they do need to have alignment of priorities across their department heads?
Just because you're listed as the owner of the priority doesn't mean you have to do it all yourself. You need to be thinking and looking across the organization of where there's unique talents or specialists to bring into your priority, so it doesn't fall all on your shoulders. You're quarterbacking that priority.
Yeah.
You're bringing your subject matter expertise, but you're not doing it alone. You need to include the rest of the group in order to get kind of buy-in up and down the organization and clarity on why this is important.
Eric, it looks like you're shaking your head and agreeing to this here too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of companies will come to us and they'll say, we're a $10 million company today. We want to be a $100 million company in 5 years. And the truth is, if they were a $100 million company today, they would go out of business immediately, right? Because the business is not built to handle the scale of 100 million. And so the only way you do that is you're on the business. The business has to grow faster in order to support the scale. If you've only got 5 or 6 people in your leadership team, there's just not enough time in the day to change the business in the way you want to handle the type of scale and go sell $100 million worth of goods or services. And so to Chris's point, if you own something, doesn't mean you have to do all the work. The goal is, can we get a lot of people in your organization spending 2 to 5% of their time working on the business as part of these priority teams? And then instead of doing, 5 or 6 priorities, you can get a lot more done. You can move faster and you can get to that $100 million mark and not break your company and not kill your people.
I think that's huge. And I think that's sometimes something that, like, personally, I've lost sight of and I've gotten much stronger on is really truly depending on and getting other people to help me. I don't have to be a solo person driving a priority. It's really about that team and cross functional and bringing folks in because we're all aligning to reach our end goal. So this is super, super helpful. So I'm going to transition here kind of for our last section, which is operationalizing strategy. So we'll kind of shift from the planning to the execution. So once your priorities are set, how do you really make sure that we've talked about kind of what you needed to do? What's the week? We're planning that out. We have the 13 weeks. We have each day, we've got a different task. But what do we really need to make sure that people do so this things just don't sit in their inbox or in their notebook or where they're tracking everything to make sure here's our task? So Eric, what would you say does a successful execution rhythm look like?
Sure. So one of my favorite quotes is from John Rockefeller, and he says, "Give me a handful of things to do, make them specific and measurable as you possibly can. Talk about them until you can't talk about them anymore, and don't talk about other stuff." Right? So
Huge.
once you've picked the stuff you're going to do, don't change it. Don't add to it. So I work with a lot of CEOs that are visionaries that will do a planning session, then they'll go to some mastermind or some conference, and they'll come in and they'll drop all this new stuff on their team. And it's incredibly distracting. So what I tell the team is, okay, if we're going to go do this, what aren't we going to do? And so I think your list of things to say no to has to be growing over time so that the stuff you say yes to can get done. Most companies say yes to too many things.
I think that's totally accurate. As I know, Chris, we've had to make some changes in our priorities over time. And so, Chris, how do you feel that you keep our team, myself included here, but our teams aligned on what really matters then week to week? And what have you done to course correct internally and can give some recommendations to other leaders here on this call?
Yeah, I feel indicted, like Eric was just speaking directly at me, because we could come up with a lot of ideas of what we could do. For me, it is committing to the priorities that we exit our planning session and staying focused on those every single week, and realizing that it's okay to have a parking lot of a lot of good ideas that are going to go into next quarter's planning session, because this goes super fast. This is not like, I think back at experience at some larger companies, Fortune 50, Fortune 500, where there was a strategic planning session one time a year. We would create all these goals, high visionary opportunities, and it would go on a spreadsheet and it would go in a drawer, and it generally didn't get picked up until 3 weeks before an annual review. And that's when we cram and try to get stuff done. And did we do this or didn't we do it? There was no real focus on executing the priorities. So getting into that rhythm where you are reviewing the progress of your priorities every single week, and you are accountable to your peers. You cannot choose to not do this. It is fully transparent, visible to everyone. You guys, we committed as a business and a leadership team that this was important, and we're gonna go do this. So this is not optional, which I think is hard for a lot of businesses, because they will get sucked into purely working in the business and taking care of customers and not creating space and time to work on the business.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's something that a lot of different, even chatting with clients, like through the many years, they lose sight of. And when they start to look on the business, it makes a world of difference and impact in their day to day. And you said something, Chris, you said accountability. And I think that's kind of like a theme, and something that we all take along with us, because it's not just doing these priorities for ourselves. It's we want to be accountable for our own priority, but it's about driving the future of the company and where can we go. And other people on our leadership team and our entire team and our clients are all actually counting on us to be successful. So I think accountability is my theme word here. I really like that one as well.
Yeah, and I think, to that accountability part, and Chris said something earlier about purpose and values, right? He talked about having purpose and having values and living them. And I think, as we think about an executive team, we think about those purpose and values. If everybody's there for the right reason, I often ask a team, hey, we've all got KPIs, right? Sure. What does KPI stand for? And the traditional answer is key performance indicator. And I say that's not right. It stands for kept promise indicators. Because if we are here for the purpose, if we love the purpose and we love the values and we love each other, when I say I'm going to do something to my executive team, that's a promise. And if I don't get that done, I am letting you down. I am letting the values down. I am hurting our purpose, and it should hurt me, and the rest of the team should hold me accountable. And so the best teams that we see hold each other accountable. It's not Chris's job to hold anybody accountable.
No, that's great. So for anyone that missed that, kept promise indicators, and it's your promise to both yourself and your team. And I think that's a big piece and a key takeaway for sure. Okay, guys, we have about 5 minutes left here. So super excited. And this has been like a lot of great conversation and a lot of, I think, incredibly valuable information that the folks tuning in and that will listen to after the actual webinar as well can really kind of take value and put into their day-to-day. But before we close, I'd love to leave our audience, so Chris and Eric, with something actionable. So Eric, if a firm wants to finish the year strong, what's the one thing that they can start doing this week to make real progress? Because we're obviously already halfway through the year. So if they were to shift gears right now, what would it be?
So I'd say pick one thing. Pick one thing. Either what's the biggest weakness of the organization that we need to fix by the end of the year, or what's working really, really well that we need to double down. Pick one thing, put a tiger team on it, and knock it out of the park. As opposed to what a lot of companies do is they pick 6 things and they get all 6 about 40 to 50% of the way done, right? If you want to really change something in the business, focus down on one thing and just knock it out of the park.
Eric, really quick, for those that don't know what a tiger team is, you want to explain? I've been on tiger teams before, but not everyone does know.
Sure. So a tiger team is we are gonna overstaff. We are gonna put as many people as we have on this project. We're gonna pull them off things that aren't as important because we are gonna say 100% this thing is going to get done.
Perfect. I think that's good explanation. I got brought up in conversation the other day when I was chatting with someone. Okay, Chris, over to you. So what's a signal you look for to know that your team, us, are actually executing versus just staying busy in our day-to-day? I'm sure this is a big one for you.
Yeah. How do I know that they're executing? I mean, that's the weekly updates. It's the weekly huddles. And are they showing up prepared? And are they knocking out the task that they've built? Are they executing the plan? And how much preparation and thought do they have going into those meetings? Is it something where you can tell that they've been focused on this priority, they've carved out time to work on it, they have meaningful updates? Or is it something that they are writing the updates 30 seconds before the meeting starts and it's just kind of surface level fluff? Or I can literally see them typing it into our aligned system while the meeting is going on and they're asking me to refresh it so they get the updates in there. That tells me that they're not making the time, that they're getting sucked out of their priority focus. And we need to have a conversation on our next one-on-one of how do we create the space and the time to execute on that.
I think that's key. And hopefully some of our leadership team that is listening to this webinar as well will get some valuable information there. You guys, this has been great. I think that everyone tuned in definitely probably feels the exact same thing. So you guys, thank you so much for jumping in. If you have anyone that's listening, if you have Q&A, I know we have 2 minutes left, so feel free to drop anything into the chat, but just kind of a quick takeaway. Just as a remember, like strategy sets your direction, execution is how you get there. And if you want to grow consistently and predictably, you need more than a vision. You truly need a system. So one that aligns your people, reinforces your priorities, your SMART priorities, and really holds the business accountable to those results. So thank you again. And then for you guys, if you want to register for the last 7 webinars that we have, they're every Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. please register and sign up, or feel free to email me and I'll make sure you are signed up and ready to go, or register for any of those, even if you can't make it, and we'll send it out. And then last but not least, I just wanted to kind of just thank again all of the technology partners that are making this happen. You guys, once again, send this over to me. And next week, we're going to be joined by Jack Copeland of Staffing Futures and Adam Conrad of Great Recruiters. And so excited to kind of bring that home. And if there's anything that you guys need, let me know. But until then, let's keep turning these plans and priorities into progress. And I can't wait to hear how everyone does with their SMART priorities and where they're at with their number one thing for the rest of the year. You guys, thank you so much. And Eric and Chris, thank you guys for your time. Super appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day.
Have a good one. Thanks, everyone.
Go execute.